Hey everyone, how are you guys doing today? I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. I am having a good and productive weekend, both at the same time. And for once, and it's a sunny Sunday, which is pretty rare. Usually a rainy Sunday. So today's topic is going to be talking about writers' conferences and some do's and don'ts. And this was a suggested one, so thank you so much for suggesting this. I've been to only one writers' conference, and that is the Liberty States Fiction Writers Conference. So I'm going to share with you what I learned from there, and I will say that it is mostly do's and not so many don'ts. But I hope that my advice helps you, especially if you're also new to writers' conferences. When I went there, most people had already been there at least once, if not multiple times. So I was one of the few brand new people. So I don't know if that's like the case for a lot of conferences where many people have gone a lot of times and you get like a crowd that knows each other or not. But I did know people there, and I went with some people, some friends that I have that are writers. We did like split up to do different things. Some of them would be in charge of various things at the writers' conferences, at the writers' conference, and then one of my friends just came and we would do separate things and then come together and do separate things and come together. So that's one thing you need to be able to do, is sort of go on your own and not be afraid. So actually, I haven't even gotten into this stuff yet. So hold on. First of all, make sure that if you are new here, you subscribe and hit the notification bell down below so you can know when I go live and when I post a new video. You're going to want that, especially for Monday when I post a big announcement. And just so you know, also, I went as an attendee to this writers' conference. I was not someone who was selling my books. I was not someone who was was on a panel. I was not a speaker, nothing like that. So I was just someone who was going to learn. So I'm talking from that perspective. So like I said, I have a number of things that you should do. And the first one is really interact. I'm someone who sometimes is very outgoing and at other times is not. So it really depends on the mood I'm in and the people there. But I was really trying to prepare myself to make sure that I was ready to just go and not be nervous. And of course, you're still nervous a little bit. It's something I had never done before. And I knew a certain amount of people there, but a lot of people I didn't know. But I wanted to interact with them, and I wanted to talk to different people and hear their stories and what are they writing and why are they there and stuff like that. So this is a great place to do this. This is a great place to network, and it's a place where people expect you to just talk to them, and one of the most convenient ways to do that is either during meals where you sit down at a table and you sit down with a bunch of people you don't know and just start asking them about themselves, and of course, when you're sitting during like a speaker, a panel, something like that, and you're sitting around people you don't know, you could talk to them as well. And while this sounds really awkward, like it's all going to be out of the blue, you're all there for the same purpose. You're all, even if the person sitting next to you has never been published and you've published like 5 books or something, you still have common ground. So it's not like you're going to a conference that's like you're all different people from different backgrounds and after different things. You all are after similar things. So it could be interesting, if you're in a panel, to say like, do you know any of the people on the panel? Oh, I know this person and I'm really excited about that. What kind of books do you write? It's actually really easy at a writer's conference, and it's not always that way at other ones, but it definitely was at this one. I had a pretty easy time with that, and other people were doing the same thing. So I would definitely recommend you interact and get people's cards. So that's another do. Definitely get people's cards and keep them as contacts. You could, some people hire assistants to do this kind of thing, but you can do this yourself. You collect people's cards, even if they're like on a table, you collect their cards and then put them like into an Excel document or something like that, so that you have their information and you can start recognizing people when you go places. Or if you see them elsewhere online, you can then email them and be like, oh, hey, I have your information from this, we met each other there and whatever, or I picked up your card from this table and I was really interested in getting to know you in this way or asking you a question or whatever. There are a million different ways, but sort of just this is building up your network, so it's not just talking to people, but actually collecting their information and, just talking to them, because they're also going to be trying to network. People who are on panels, people who are speakers, they also want to network. They want to talk to you and they want to get to know their audience. This is good for them too. So that's another thing. As long as you can sort of keep that information, it's very much like building an email list. So you want to, if you're going to be a speaker, you want to have that email list like a document where people can write down their emails, and you can collect that, and then you have your audience. This is very, very similar in that way. Another thing is, of course, along those lines, to make sure you're bringing your card. If you go and you don't have any information to hand out, it's a lot harder for people to get in touch with you. It's harder for people to look you up because they're not going to remember. And then it's up to you to remember to look them up. But if they have your card, they're more likely to visit your website, to check out where you are on social media, and just follow you for the sake of seeing what you're up to. And then you can both sort of contact each other as you want to, and follow each other as you want to, and you don't lose that opportunity for them to know who you are and check you out. Sort of, not everyone wants to email, right? Not everyone wants to go onto Facebook and say hi. Some people just want to go to your website and see who you are, and see what you're doing. And that's like just what they want. So if you give them a way to do that, that's all the better for them. Another thing that I would recommend is going to as many panels and speakers as you possibly can. For me, this was not a time to relax. This was not a time to say, yeah, well, I don't know, that doesn't help me too much. Like, even if there were a lot of speakers at the same time that really had nothing to do with my genre or my goals, it was still an opportunity for me to get the hang of what other people are doing and see other people's strategies and how the genre differs from mine. And, get advice from a totally different perspective that may or may not have something for me. But really, every panel I went to, every speaker I went to had something I could use. So I always picked up something, even if it was a tiny tidbit, it was always worth going. It was always worth spending the time. And if I spent this money to go, you better believe I'm going to make it to every panel I can manage. So I really take advantage of the opportunity. And, another thing is make sure that you bring, either a notebook or a computer. Honestly, I found a notebook easier for myself. I brought my computer because I really thought I was just going to put all my notes right into documents so that I could copy and paste and start putting them on my blog. I thought that would be easier. But it just turned out for me that a notebook was way easier, and it was just too much of a pain to try to navigate everywhere and make sure the Wi-Fi was working and all that kind of stuff. So I guess you could make sure both options are available, but I don't know. It depends on what you think will be easiest in the moment, like actually more convenient, not easiest after the fact, but easiest in that moment. And that's why I ended up writing in a notebook. But you have to remember to bring one. In this case, that was one of the things they were giving out too, but I was well prepared. I had a notebook, I had a pen, I had a pencil, I had Post-it notes, I had like anything you could imagine just to make sure I didn't lose out. So I would do both of those things. If anybody has been, by the way, to a writer's conference in the same capacity as me, where I was just, going as a writer who was learning, or if you're going in a different capacity as a panelist or a speaker, definitely write in the chat or comment down below to let me know what your do's and don'ts are, because I think it's a really interesting thing to consider, and the differences between like the different, how you would go and what your goal would be, and, what you would do and what you would not do. Joe is saying, Joe from Go Indie Now, did you have a special notebook for it though? Well, I did bring a particular notebook. You know me, Joe. I always have particular notebooks for particular things. So I have a particular notebook that I bring to things like this, so that after the fact, no matter what I'm looking for, whether I'm looking for notes from Sisters in Crime, which I am a member of, whether I'm looking for notes from a presentation, or if I'm looking for conference notes, it's all in the same notebook, and I don't have to go racing around trying to find this stuff. I used to have that problem. I would put it everywhere, and I would just find different notes in different places, and it was such a pain when I remembered, oh, there's something I wanted to look at, and it was from this particular event, but I really don't remember where I wrote it. So this way, everything is in the same place, even if it's in different sections of your notebook. It doesn't matter. You know where to find it. It's so much easier. It's a huge time saver. And Joe is saying, do charge your phone beforehand. Absolutely. When I went to this, it was an overnight. It was 2 nights overnight. And I brought a phone charger. I brought a regular phone charger for in the room. I brought one of those mobile chargers where you can just use it on the go and it doesn't need like to be plugged in or anything like that. And I made sure that no matter, and anything I brought, I had a charger for my laptop, everything. So I made sure that no matter what, I wouldn't run out of charge. That's one of the most frustrating things, I would say. So that's a good do, Joe. That's a really good one. Joe is saying you don't want to be that guy that has to stand in a corner while their phone charges and and not be able to network. Exactly. That's why I also had the mobile one. I'm extra paranoid about that stuff, about it just like your phone just running down because you decided to, I don't know, post an Instagram photo and the Wi-Fi is weak or something, so I get nervous about that stuff and bring multiple ways to do pretty much everything. So I probably bring too much stuff. And that was one thing that actually was a pain. When I brought so much stuff, I had so much with me that the bags were really heavy. And that was really annoying. It was fine, like it was doable, but it was very annoying. So to think about what you really need, and you can always put extra stuff up in your room if you're staying overnight or even in your car or something like that, just in case you want to pick it up. Yeah, Marinska, she's saying, I just store all my stuff in the same place. Makes total sense. I would carry around my charger and things like that I didn't need, just because I'm always like, oh, if I forget it and I really needed it, I'm going to regret it. So I usually take too much, which I can only work out okay. It makes sure that you don't make a mistake. Another thing to do is bring copies of your book if you are willing to give them away. So that's something I did just in case I spoke to someone who was interested in what I was writing and was like, oh, I wish I could take a look at that book. And I could say, here it is, and so I was carrying that around with me too. I was only carrying around 2 copies, I think. And you can put more in your car or more in your hotel room or whatever. But if you have them, just in case somebody might want to buy it from you, somebody may want to just see what it looks like. You may bump into like a lit agent or an editor who's interested in your writing, and then you can just hand them your book. So that's a really, that's a good way to ensure that no matter what, you've got a copy there with you. Even if you just want to like maybe read a line from it. Maybe somebody is like, oh, what is your writing like? Or you want to ask a question during a speaker or a panel, and there's something about your book in particular, and you need to do a quick flip through. Just having it there for many, many reasons is super helpful. Okay, so Joe is saying, good point about the book. And then, okay, so he's getting into don'ts, and I'm ready to do that too. So he says, don't talk during a panel presentation. Go outside if you want to chat with someone. That's so annoying. Yeah, definitely. That is really, really irritating. And silence your phone. You don't want it ringing. Vibrate is okay, but I always just silence it. Anything I need to deal with, I deal with afterwards. And I usually let everyone know that I'm not going to be available during the weekend, or I'm really mostly not going to be around. So yeah, if you're going to want to chat with someone, that is very annoying. And especially if you're close to that person, if you can't hear what the speaker is saying, that's the whole point of coming. So definitely be considerate in every way. Another one that I have is don't shy away from asking questions. These people are here to answer your questions. So even if you have a question that you feel is kind of silly, I mean, if you really feel uncomfortable, you can always preface it with, I'm not sure how many people already know the answer to this. Maybe everyone else knows, but I was wondering, there's always a way to ask things in a way that you'll feel comfortable. But just don't pass up the opportunity, because you don't want to be stuck with that regret afterwards. If only I had asked this, that person would have known the answer, or that person would have had such great advice, and I missed that opportunity. And you may never get to speak to them again, especially these people who are New York Times bestsellers. They have things to do and places to go, and they may not see your tweet at them or your Facebook message or something. So just make sure to ask. Like I said, they're there to answer your questions, so no big deal. And if they say ask questions at the end, write it down in your notebook so you don't forget it. That's really annoying too, if you have like this great question and then you're like, I forget what it was. And another thing for me is, don't think about anything outside of the conference. It is really easy to be thinking about all the things you should be doing and all the things coming up in your life and how you forgot to do this and that for work. if you think of that and it pops into your mind, write it down or something, but don't be running through that kind of stuff in your head. Oh, when I get home, I need to do this. Oh, I, really need to remember to do this at work. That really takes you out of the whole environment. It takes you, and you may not think of the questions you want to in the moment. It may not allow you to network in the same way. It won't feel as free. So you want to feel, well, at least for me, you want to feel like this is it. This is all you're doing. This is all that matters. Nothing else matters. And I'm just going to be in that zone. And that really made me feel free. It made me feel like I was full-time doing this, like all the New York Times bestseller people who were doing that full-time. It made me feel like I'm doing the same thing, and even though you're not really, in that moment, it makes a difference to your focus. I think it's a good way to do that. Okay. Turn these, Amarinska's saying, and her channel, by the way, is under Amalyrical, so you can look her up there. She does book reviews, and she talks about things she likes and dislikes in books in general, what she's looking for, and her book reviews are great. They're in depth. Definitely check her out. She says, these turn into do's and don'ts for uni. Oh, good point. We used a distribution box, so multiple people could charge at once. The socket was 30 centimeters away, though. Yeah, that's actually a good point. With this is actually applicable to a lot of different things, many different kinds of events. And like she's saying, college, university, it could be work related. Really, you could use these for that kind of thing. If you have someone coming in at work and they're going to be an expert talking about something, these are the same kinds of things you want to remember. If you're going to be a speaker, these are similar things you want to think of. When we had a panel with, it was 2 New York Times bestsellers. It was romance. They were both romance. I don't write romance. I went to that panel because these people know what they're talking about. And I brought up general points that I had questions about, and just like anything I could think of about their process, or things about trends in general, writing to or not writing to trends, stuff like that can be universal. So just because, like I said before, go to as many panels as you can. If the things that you see on the schedule don't apply to you and you are able to continue on, like you're not too exhausted to continue on to that time that the panels are not like what you would normally do, figure out what would be the most valuable to you in general, that you could translate these things into things you could use, just like I did for the romance one. It's like I said, you can get something out of everything if you really keep an open mind and you really try. So those are really my do's and don'ts. I don't have too many don'ts because it's really more just make sure you do this and don't miss out on that opportunity and stuff. So like I said, if you have other things to share in the comments, let me know. It will be very interesting to hear what you guys have to say, because a lot of times the more you go to these things, the more do's and don'ts you might come up with. So there are going to be a lot more people who have gone to many more than I have. When I went to the book part, like the where these different authors are selling their books, I did make sure to ask any questions I had about their process, about how they felt about this conference, whether this was a very successful one that they would do again or not. Like, I'm really trying to get anything for my benefit. Do you know what I mean? Like, think of what's going to benefit you. Think of what you want to know and make sure you get that answer. These people tend to be, as far as I've seen, super friendly. So, don't be afraid and just ask them. Okay, so that's it for this video. I really appreciate you guys being here. And as always, thank you so much for spending time with me. Make sure that you subscribe and hit notifications, because on Monday I have a major announcement going up. It's a big thing for me. So I hope you guys will be excited about it. And this is a huge one. So definitely be there for that. And on the next time, it'll be Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. As always, I'm going to be talking about what are lit agents looking for and what aren't they looking for. This is also from the Liberty States Fiction Writers Conference. That is going to be, I was actually at a panel that was lit agents and editors and what they're looking for and what they aren't looking for. So I took a lot of notes on that, and I'm going to share with you guys what I learned there. Amarinska has one more thing to say. She says, if allowed, take a recorder of the camera with you. Yes. Fellow students did that and recorded when possible. Very useful. That's a really good point. I did do that at a panel once And this time I didn't want to do it because I felt like it was going to be too much between my taking notes and my recording. And I wasn't sure that the lighting was going to be good. But if you can, and if you want to, that's a really good thing. It'd be a great thing for YouTube. And you can always ask that person afterwards, can I share this? Would you mind? I'll tag you, that kind of stuff. So that was actually something I was going to do. That's a good point. And I did do that at a Sisters in Crime public event where I did record part of the panel to include in a vlog. So it can actually work multiple ways for you. So I hope to see you guys. I hope you guys will watch my video on Monday. And I hope to see you guys next week for some tips on what lit agents are and are not looking for. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.